Hello, and welcome to Shakespeare Aloud, the recap for your reading of Measure for Measure. I'm very excited that I get a chance to join you again from afar to be part of this series when you read Measure for Measure. And before we jump in, I would like to give you a little recap of Act 1 from Measure for Measure if you're joining for this upcoming week. Act 1, Measure for Measure. Duke Vincentio appoints Lord Angelo as his deputy to rule Vienna in his absence. Vienna has recently become loose in its moral behavior. Angelo attempts to turn the city around with the strict enforcement of the laws against immortality. This results in imprisonment and a death sentence for Claudio, since his fiancée, and not wife, Juliet, is pregnant. Lucio, a friend, takes this news to the convent where Isabella, Claudio's sister, is about to become a nun. Fearing for her brother, Isabella decides at once to seek mercy from Angelo. This recap is also with the help of the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, if you want to check them out. And after listening to your reading of Act 1, I also thought I would get a chance to share two thoughts. One was the really interesting discussion about thee and thou, and I just would like to add a couple of times where in Shakespeare plays they would use thee and thou. So in addition to what you've already discussed, to show reference and so on, and depending on which social status you would use it, you would also use thee and thou if you were to speak to someone you're in love with, or your lover, or you want to impress with. However, you also thee and thou someone if you feel you want to challenge them, or you want to clarify them as your enemy. So the polar opposite of the lover, the enemy. And a third time you also use thee and thou is when you refer to someone who is absent. So deities are referred to as thee and thou. Characters that aren't present at the moment and are somewhere else, or you still want to address, you use thee and thou. So I just thought that might help to understand the rest of the play, because it is really interesting within this. And then I was really excited about the discovery and the chat about verse and prose in Act 1, Scene 3, Lucio and Claudio. And I just thought it's so interesting, and as Dawn was already pointing out, that Lucio might be going through a lot of things here. And I think that we have both things happening. We have Claudio being the only way he can speak in that moment, because it is a life and death matter, is being sincere, so he has to speak in verse. And Lucio, who's trying maybe to attempt to pull Claudio out of this, is trying to speak prose, is speaking prose, and then has to again sort of get closer to Claudio's speech pattern, as Claudio again and again and again answers in verse. So this is really interesting, and it doesn't happen very often at all that one character doesn't affect the other character speaking this way. And usually if someone speaks prose, the other person gets pulled into speaking prose. So you've discovered something really interesting here, and it's really wonderful to continue looking into this, how this might develop and inform what's going on in Measure for Measure. So have fun with reading of Act 2, and I'm looking forward to hearing you and seeing you again for next week. Bye!